Welcome back to Tipping Point, and we're host Kara McKinney. Renewed war in the Middle East could impact American drivers at the pump. At this point, the punches just keep coming because it's not like we've even gotten much reprieve from high gas prices in these last few months. At least not here in California, where prices only went down to about $4, then climbed back to $5 and are now over $6 again. It's times like this where it'd be nice to have backup options rather than having to rely on OPEC nations as they come down on different sides of the wars in Israel and Ukraine. But nope, we've drained the strategic oil reserve and are pulling drilling permits left and right. And by we, I mean the elites running D.C., of course, not you and I. Aside from Biden or the Energy Secretary, a new article published today at The Federalist turns a critical eye toward Deb Haaland, the Secretary of the Interior, and her hardcore left-wing activist daughter Soma, a 29-year-old. Soma has ties to the Pueblo Action Alliance, or PAA, which is described by the article as a far-left Albuquerque-based climate group that advocates on behalf of Laguna Pueblo, which is a Native American tribe that the Haalands belong to. That's not the issue, obviously, though it will become a point of contention later when you hear about the rivalry they have with the Navajo. But anyway, the issue here is that the PAA reportedly openly associates with the Venceremos Brigade, which is a Cuban solidarity group that facilitates trips for American students to Cuba, where they're said to be groomed by the communist regime's intelligence apparatus. One such trip to Cuba was hosted by the Institute of Friendship along with the Peoples, a mouthful of benign-sounding words in the English translation that obscures how the group is led by one of Cuba's most notorious spies, who was sentenced to prison here in the U.S. for espionage. So not only is a member of Biden's cabinet the mother of a woman who works with groups closely tied to foreign hostile Marxist governments, and who also allegedly takes part in protests and attempted stormings of U.S. government buildings January 6th style that we're told is literal terrorism, but also Deb Haaland appears to be very influenced by her daughter's activism in the same way Joe Biden is very influenced by his son's corruption. She's even been accused of meeting with members of the PAA while in office. The Federalist article reports that, quote, in June, Secretary Haaland shut down oil and gas opportunities in the areas surrounding New Mexico's Chaco Cultural National Historical Park. The 20-year moratorium on new leases within a 10-mile radius of the park was a longtime goal of the PAA, which produced a video opposing development in the region that featured the elder Haaland. The film was narrated by Soma and was the subject of an ethics complaint by Protect the Public's Trust in August. Given her past statements, participation in this film, and her child's active role in lobbying against oil and gas development in the region, reasonable observers could question Secretary Haaland's impartiality in the matter, the group wrote in a letter to the Interior Department Inspector General. Secretary Haaland's oil and gas moratorium will cost the Navajo Nation, a rival tribe in the region that lobbied in favor of oil and gas development, $194 million over the next 2 decades. Weeks after the announcement, House Republicans launched their own probe into the decision, citing clear conflicts of interest, end quote. So if this isn't reason enough to get oil production back up domestically immediately, the war waged by Hamas on Israel should be even more reason to do so, and to strengthen oil sanctions on hostile governments like the one in Iran. Joining us now to discuss is Daniel Turner, the founder and executive director of Power the Future. Daniel, thanks for being here tonight.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Kara.
Great. So you warned in a new statement that because of radicals in the Biden administration, last year was not a record for American energy, but you say it was a record one for Iran. Talk to us about that disparity.
Yeah, right before President Biden was inaugurated, Iran was producing around 900,000 barrels a day. And it was such a low number because of the sanctions the Trump administration had placed on the purchase of Iranian oil. Fast forward to present times, and Iran produces a little over 3 million barrels a day. So that's a huge jump, triple. And when you look at where oil prices are now, which is $85, close to $90 a barrel, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, $280 million a day. Iran is producing. Now, of course, they have to pay off some business interest, right? It's not pure profit, but still, this regime is making tens of millions of dollars a year. And what do regimes like Iran do when they have excess cash, right? They don't build schools for girls. They don't build community centers for religious minorities, right? They fund terrorism. It's what Iran has always done. It's why those sanctions were so important